Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. Shall we get started?
I love the punctuality. Let's get started.
Okay, so it's 8 o'clock on the West Coast. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast of the US, and it's 4 p.m. in Central European time zone. Okay, cool. So hello, everyone. First of all, welcome to the first edition of the SAP Fiori-side chat. We are very excited to have you with us. My name is Eugen Winschel. I'm from the SAP UX product management team, and I'm joined by my colleagues Jean-Luc Thierry, who's having a sip of glass of water while I'm announcing him, and Keith Fisher.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so as I mentioned, today is the first edition. So before we sort of get started, like what was the idea of the Fiori-side chat? We wanted to come together during these special times and say like, look, usually we meet often in person in some way or form. Given the current circumstances, we said like we want to keep meeting in person, just in a virtual form. And we want to use a format that we typically don't use. So that's why we came up with a Zoom call to actually share best practices around everything SAP UX, SAP Fiori. And we will be on video. You can decide if you want to be on video yourself when you ask questions, when you have a conversation with us. But you don't have to if you don't want to, if you're shy of a camera. The idea behind it is so that we actually learn about the hot topics based on your interest. We will cover various topics over the next few sessions, so to say, and we would like to understand also like what you would like to hear and talk with us about. And the chat, as I mentioned, is in a very interactive style, open to everyone. So we didn't have any registration. Once we hit the limit of participants, not a problem. If you miss a call, if you miss a chat, we're actually recording them, and we will put them actually online as well, so that you can watch them whenever you want. And today's first call, so to say, or first chat, and the topic for the first Fiori-side chat is actually the value of UX and a high-level overview on SAP Fiori. And we will be doing a short presentation with an interactive discussion. So please don't wait until the presentation is over. Actually ask while we are presenting, while we are talking with you about certain things. Just ask questions, give us comments. So feel free to chime in at any time. And before we actually get started, maybe we're setting up some rules of engagement for today's session.
Yeah, so okay, I get to tell all the rules of engagement. Look, it's really simple, folks. This is an interactive participation. We'd love to at least hear and see from you. So the chat window, which is on the bottom of your screen, it's the little orange button that says chat, kind of in the bottom right side. If you click that open, you can see chats. You can introduce yourself. We can ask questions as we go along. But as Eugen said, interactively, we would really like you to just speak up if you wish. Don't feel like you're interrupting us. We're really as much interested in hearing from you as just listening to ourselves talk. We are focused on SAP UX and our topics here. This is not a sales session, so we try not to bash any products, and we try not to sell any products here. We really want to try and help. We are not doing anything outside of normal channels from product management, which is to really interact with you as much as possible. You'll see video and microphone settings there in the lower left. You are more than welcome, again, as Eugen said, to start video and share with us, and certainly speak using the little microphone channel there. While you're not speaking, though, if you could just put yourself on mute, it makes things a little bit easier. We're not that familiar with all of the Zoom controls, so it's not as easy for us to actually mute people when things go a little awry. So yeah, we just keep things fun, professional, and interesting. And so, from there, we'll move on.
Great. Thank you very much, Keith. So as I mentioned, we want to talk today about the value of UX and give you a high-level overview on Fiori. So for us, important is sort of say like, how do we shift the user's mindset with an innovative user experience? And the question is like, why UX actually matters. And we will cover today various topics. Like one of them is obviously why UX matters, what you should know from a high level perspective, and what we will cover, like so to say, like in the next chats, in the next coming weeks, and how we can, so to say, engage so that you can succeed with your UX project. And typically, we give an overview, like what's the difference between UX and UI. But I think given this audience, we don't need to get into those details. But I think what's important to understand, a great user experience is actually makes a process frictionless. So the idea behind that, and I think all of you might be, so to say, have used, for example, and I always like to use this example because it's everybody understands it. Every one of you might have used Uber in the past, or something similar. And would you say like Uber has an amazing user interface? It's very good, but is it great? I think it's a very good one, but we definitely understand that the UX, the user experience, is actually great. So because what they did is they took a process that was not optimized in the past, and they took each piece and broke it down and make it better. So for example, whoever lived or visited New York and knows like how to call a cab, especially when it rains, you appreciate to actually just press a button and a car arrives to pick you up. And the same, like when you arrive, you don't have to wait for the receipt to be printed, and you don't have to take a photo immediately, because you can actually go in the app, you can get out of the car, you don't have to worry about payment. And if you need the receipt later, you can go in and download it anytime. So that is, so to say, like what I would consider like a frictionless process. And for us, so to say, like how can we build something similar in our business processes when we actually apply it to our daily lives? And so what we want to do today is achieve 3 takeaways for you from today's call. So you can also, or today's chat, so that you can decide like if this is what you want to talk about today. Is first, SAP Fiori is different things. Like many people work on different aspects of it. And we say like, look, if you bring all of them together, it's actually a combination of a design system. It's a portfolio of applications. It's a set of tools, like for example, Fiori elements, Fiori tools, and technologies. And from that perspective, we said, this actually will enable an innovative UX in the enterprise. And so we want to share that with you. You will hear about like how Fiori is the best way to consume and create UX innovations throughout the presentation. And so to say, like you will see like how we offer the flexibility to implement Fiori throughout various ways in your enterprise. So why does the UX actually matter? And as I said, like please chime in, like if you have any questions or like any comments throughout the presentation, don't wait until it's done. Just like feel free to comment at any time. At the moment, we see a lot attention actually from various angles. And this is actually a very interesting survey that was done a few months ago, or published a few months ago, that actually in the enterprise, more than 2/3 of the CEO actually see user experience as a very, very competitive differentiator. And understanding that, we actually sort of say like dive deeper into the understanding like what's so special about user experience. And we actually saw some more data which actually showed us that user experience becomes more important than product functionality or even the price. And you can see like the trend of how the user experience topic has been growing over the last few years. So the question that we actually were asking ourselves, like, why has UX become so important? And it's quite simple, because we say like the way we live impacts actually the way we want to work. And it's not surprising, like, for example, if you have observed like how people play today, if you see like how, for example, people walk around the street on parking lots in public places to catch virtual figures in Pokemon Go, you see like how AR is, so to say, augmented reality is, so to say, coming into our personal lives through games. If you take a look at Fortnite, you see like how people come together to play together. Like if you just imagine like 25 years ago, all of us who were playing on the computer were playing by ourselves. Like the first LAN parties that came up, you had to take your big desktop because a laptop wouldn't be powerful enough at that time. You would have to come together in a room and play together. Today, everybody's sitting on their couch playing it either in front of their TV or on their laptops, on inside their home and their friends are online. So the same applies, so to say, like to us in terms of like we want to work as well in a collaborative online environment. And today is like a very good example for that. The way we watch has tremendously changed. Netflix, YouTube is completely on demand. So you can actually decide on when you want to watch. You don't have to wait until a TV channel decides that you can watch a TV series at 8:30 p.m. every Thursday night. You can actually watch the whole season if you want to in one sitting, in one go over the weekend. The way we talk, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, totally different way of connecting with our friends and family has changed the way of how we want to work as well. Obviously the way of how we shop now, like now is even a very, very good time to see how online shops are still growing while retail shops are actually potentially even going out of business because nobody is allowed to go to retail shops, and online shops are actually growing more and more. So again, like if we bring all that together, we see there's a lot of trends happening that if we live like that, we want to have the same experience, or we want to work very similarly in our enterprise, so to say, as well. And that's why, so to say, what we wanted to cover is that that is why UX becomes so much more important. And as I mentioned already, for us, the big picture, Fiori is actually like various things. It's a design system, obviously. It's a portfolio of applications that we already offer. But they're like in those cases when you want to build your own applications, there's development tools, and then obviously there's supporting technologies. And as I mentioned, like please ask any questions if you have them throughout the call. So for us, as you've seen, Fiori actually has been an evolution. It has been coming and growing since 6-7 years. 2013 was the first edition. In 2016, we launched Fiori 2.0 in S/4HANA. And with Fiori 3, we're actually extending and expanding Fiori into more and more applications in the enterprise. So for us, it's important to mention that Fiori, so to say, like we consider Fiori the UX for the enterprise. We'll come to that later when we talk about also like things like Fiori elements. Fiori 3, for example, is available already now. As I mentioned, in certain products, we have already launched it. In S/4HANA Cloud, for example, you can already see the first versions of Fiori 3, and it's consistently evolving. And as I mentioned, it's an evolution. It's actually not a revolution, it's actually an evolution. And we want to keep it in evolution for a very simple reason, because we want to make it future ready. So whatever your investments are today, if you build them, so to say, like based on our guidelines, it should be future ready. And that's why we have, and I mentioned Fiori elements already a few times, built like a template set that actually provides us with the possibility to actually build applications very quickly and be future ready. From a evolution perspective, what we actually do is we adapt new trends and industry requirements. So for example, what you will see is, or what you can already experience is actually the dark mode in Fiori 3. So following that, more and more people preferred the dark mode on their laptops, on their mobile devices. We saw that as well. And we said like, look, we want to provide that as well from an enterprise perspective. So you will see things like that. At the same time, we understand that at the moment, our users see something different. That's actually the variety that we see in our applications at the moment. And that's when you actually look at the Fiori principles. Consistency has been the number one focus of us to actually create a consistency across the SAP applications. Obviously, as I mentioned already, it's an evolution. So we will sort of say add functionality and follow new trends. It's actually compatible to the previous version, and we make sure that it's also compatible to future releases of Fiori, and it's actually modular. So you will see that you can actually add different aspects based on your business needs. Integration, like for example, machine learning, you have multimodal or multi-channel with mobile and desktop. So there's like, it's a variety, and that's the flexibility we offer you. As I mentioned, consistency, big focus for us. Started with, for example, the navigation for us. So you will see the different headers that you will have throughout the application in SAP applications. We will actually harmonize them And so you see like the existing situation on the left and the future situation on the right. And that's for us at the moment, the target that we are working on. Coming into customer examples, what we have is we also have customer examples and customer success stories. And one that we would like you to know about is a very great one that we have done with one of our customers, which is Adidas. They came actually to our Fiori Makers Bootcamp. And the Fiori Makers Bootcamp is a great concept. It's actually you as a customer bring a business problem, and we bring our best people from a design perspective, from a technical perspective, and we actually approach that in a 3-day workshop, interactive workshop. So in that case, Adidas actually brought a scenario where they said they had a business process that took 11 minutes on the phone. We worked with them for 3 days on that scenario, and we could actually reduce it to 3 clicks in a Fiori application. And I think that's where, when I mentioned that UX, a great UX makes a product or a process actually frictionless, that's what we talk about. And I can talk as much as I want to it, but I think it's much better if you hear it from the customer itself. And I have a little video here that I hope it works well on the Zoom call. So let's try it out.
Let's start with maybe with the Adidas belief. Through sports, we have the power to change lives. We want to be the best sports company in the world.
So we want to understand the consumer, and we want to treat the consumer in the best possible way.
And to support that, we also need digital experiences, digital touch points with these consumers. So it's not for me only just a matter of, yes, we can do something for a consumer. It's also how to enable people internally to do that. Here, it's super important that we have a really cool user experience.
SAP obviously managed to take out this experience of there's so much technology in between. They managed to make it more seamless, faster, just better from an UX point of view and from how it is perceived by the user.
What I see so far is that the Fiori technology can bridge the gap between different systems. Currently, we have SAP GUI here, then we have like a different front and a different tool somewhere else. We have applications, some Excel sheets, and so on. And this is something which Fiori can bring together.
We improved a lot. We invested time on not only on the development part, but also on the DevOps tools around the SAP Fiori ecosystem.
It was really great to see how fast we can bring a solution to life.
For example, in the Fiori Bootcamp, we were able to create 2 applications from scratch in just a couple of days.
You can access it anywhere, be it on your laptop, on your mobile devices. You can use it on the go. So that has been amazing. I mean, earlier it was not possible to access it on the mobile.
What did surprise me the most, actually the users' feedback. And we had one use case in UK. The consumers were calling our agents and they needed 11 minutes to answer that. With Fiori, they need no 3 clicks. How much more can you consumer focus or customer focus with such an app? Yeah.
First of all, it gives the ability at all that the functionality in SAP is used by many more people, right? That's number one. Before it was just not usable because it was too complex. Second, it's real time. So we can do it, we directly do something in the system, right? And third, it's fun. It's fun using it, right? And that's why it is used more common, so the adoption rate is much higher, and the training efforts are much lower. So absolutely, it's paying off, yes.
So maybe to make it more interactive, I've been talking a lot about things that we want to share with you. So what has your experience been, maybe into the call? And if you want to say something, you have like an unmute button at the top left corner. So if you want to unmute, I would like to hear about your experience. And please, you can also share like if the experience has not been good. Like that's why we want to make it very open and understand like what keeps you busy.
Everybody is microphone shy today.
We
So I was thinking,
recognize some of the people in the call, so we can cold call you.
yeah, like Gavin.
I was just gonna say, since it's so quiet, I can certainly share some experiences. I mean,
Sure.
so Gavin Quinn here from Mindset, Fiori, we've been deeply involved in this for many years. But no, we've had a lot of great experiences, even more of late. You know, I think that we're certainly impressed by a lot of the changes that are happening in Fiori 3. We're starting to see an uptick there. We're certainly starting to do a lot around the Fiori elements that Peter's been helping us out with. So several different initiatives there that have started to pick up and traction. You know, maybe one of the topics I would be interested in just from other people are, you know, what are the types of apps and areas where you're seeing the most interest? I would just say from us, it's sort of everything related to sales and sales orders and kind of CRM-ish things would be probably the biggest area. And then maybe another area we would see a lot around sort of running plants. So things maybe around quality, but just around maybe warehousing and sort of reporting the analytics from the plants. Anyway, just kind of start a couple topics there, but that's kind of where we see the vast majority of sort of excitement and energy.
Cool, thanks for sharing. So when you mentioned Fiori Elements, what about Fiori Elements is helping you?
Probably have to rely on the real specific technical parts of some of the other people on the team. But, you know, I would say probably the biggest part just from the outside looking in for me is just how quick and easy it is to do things, how it's a lot less having to code things. And so we find a lot more sort of speed there just to roll things out. I would say that a lot of the apps are just, you know, more supportable, sort of just using more configuration for those is really going to help. I know that one of the main reasons that we get pushback from customers is just that, you know, doing a full-fledged Fiori custom development with design thinking can be somewhat expensive. So anything we can do with sort of low code, rapid code, templates, a lot of the tools web IDE really quite help. You know, so that's probably the main parts.
Okay, cool. Any other feedback experience you would like to share from anybody else on the call?
Well, we have some in the chat here, right? And I think you know, maybe before
Hey there.
There we go. Go ahead.
Oh, you are? Oh, I'm watching the UX one, the Fiori-side chat. It's not a product, it's their chat call every month. So,
Hello.
and so anyway, I'm actually looking at the PowerPoint that's that was shown. And on there, yeah, it's pretty confusing because they're using month, year, and then year only on the on-prem part. So it is kind of confusing, but I guess you cannot have groups or spaces at the same time. I'll ask again to clarify. Yeah, because you know, right now we're using groups because the way they're saying they're going to phase it out, right? Did you get to that part where they said they're going to phase it out after, I guess, after November 2020? Yeah,
Sorry.
they said they're going to, so groups are default in 2020.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, is that a question to us or a comment?
I don't know. That was great.
Okay, maybe it was somebody unmuted by accident and was on a separate call. Okay, any other feedback? Any other questions?
So
correct, but the question which was suddenly raised regarding the groups and spaces, it's actually a good one because on Monday there was a Fiori demo day, and then yeah, it is quite confusing that we have now two components which are exactly describing the same. So we just renamed the groups.
Okay, let's do this. Keith, are you aware of any?
So I suspect that you might actually be talking about the workspace project or the groups project. Was that presented in that area? It is an area of interest, right? People do see an overlay of what that new work is being done. And I think it is a topic for us to do deeper follow-up on and comparison and contrast. So we've been very much focused in a Fiori mindset and a Fiori world. So I think this, you know, I'm creating a list here of topics that we want to dive into, but you know, it's absolutely correct that people can be confused by some of the previews that they're seeing here in the new topics, and then trying to relate that to their roadmap around the Fiori Launchpad, around you know, Fiori applications. So you know, I would take this unique opportunity to say we will add that into the conversation so that people can properly position that work with, you know, kind of the general Fiori roadmap, and then specifically the Fiori Launchpad. So for the lady who shared her experience, maybe inadvertently, I think we'll use that as good follow-up, right? So maybe we could table it unless anybody else has any other comments on it.
Perhaps just a quick comment. This is Paul speaking. So basically, as we do have the groups nowadays for the structuring our content on the homepage of the Fiori Launchpad, with Fiori 3, we are enriching this experience that you have additional possibilities to structure your content according to the spaces concept. And that's something where we might have to go for another deep dive into the Fiori 3 concept. And I think that's an important topic from a technical point of view, from a migration point of view as well. How is these concepts evolve, so that we not have kind of a hard cut between the concepts we are leveraging today for managing our content and by the evolution. What's from my point of view key in this change is that nowadays we have the homepage and the app finder. And what I've learned from a lot of customers and from a lot of conversations we are having is that basically this space in between, where we offer some space for the different departments, the different organizational units within a company to provide some predefined content, that was basically missing. So we only had the app finder where all the content, all the applications are provided, which are assigned to an end user, and the space for personalization on the homepage. But this space in between, where some structured content could be provided, that was kind of lacking, and that's something which we are now doing with Fiori 3 by providing these kind of spaces.
Great, thank you. So thank you, Paul. Paul's also with the UX organization and chipping in. But I think, you know, Eugen and Jean-Luc, just to kind of wrap this up, I think it is a topic for a deeper dive to compare and contrast and get into, you know, not only spaces groups, but also the workspace concept that we're coming up with that's starting to trickle out there, and some interesting information there. So. And maybe we can go on to the other questions that we have. There's some in the chats, right? So, you know, Alexi, briefly, you know, you mentioned that a customer was fascinated with the Fiori 3 idea, but looking to the roadmap wasn't able to set up the project. They said they missed the clarity on feature availability in the roadmap. Was that based on specific? Their specific implementation? You know, on their specific release version? Because I know that is and has been confusing about people really being able to see what's available for my current version of implementation of S4. Was that the concern and the question? Waiting for Alexi to respond here. So we do have some content. That has been created that I'll share. Separately as a follow-up. There is a matrix of what is available in what Fiori releases by your S4 implementation. So there is, in some cases, you don't necessarily get free Fiori 3 just by simply upgrading the front end. So there is some detail there that we can provide for you, and we'll provide it along as a follow-up to be in the wiki after the call.
So I see some questions around Fiori elements in or like development of applications overall. So what I would like to do is like, let me quickly give you some more information, and then we come actually back to those questions of low code, no code environments and how to approach them. So we already heard about Fiori elements, and that Fiori elements are actually a great way to build applications following, so to say, like the Fiori guidelines. What actually are Fiori elements? And the idea behind Fiori elements was like, we said, like, look, we see that more and more applications follow the same way of like the way of what we need in terms of like certain elements on the screen. And we said, like, if we can find a way of how to templatize that approach, we can actually save quite some significant amount of development time and development resources in building these applications. So we came up with a template set, and in internal application efforts, we could find out that actually Fiori elements helps us to reduce 80% of the front-end development costs, which means when you're building an SAP application, a Fiori application using Fiori elements, you have a much less reduced, a much more reduced effort, so to say, by using Fiori elements. The advantage actually of it is that any application that you built with Fiori elements actually has 100% user experience consistency, product consistency. So we actually compliant with the guidelines, and that's what actually helps us to be, so to say, forward compatible as well. As long as you don't touch, so to say, or don't change the application after you use the Fiori template or the Fiori elements template, it actually stays upward and frontward compatible. And at the moment, we have 5 elements, so to say. We have an overview page, we have a list report, we have an object page, an analytical list page, and a flexible layout that helps us, so to say, like to bring different pieces together. And what we saw in our own development projects, that these 5 already cover more than 80% of enterprise use cases so far. What we also say is like when you actually observe that in your organization you have very a lot of use cases that are not covered by Fiori elements yet, let us know, and let's work together on understanding what are those use cases, so that we can actually bring that number up from 80 to 90 to 95%. Because the idea behind Fiori elements is truly to have you worry less about building a Fiori application that is consistent and compliant with the guidelines. And just to make, give you like a quick view for those of you who don't know Fiori elements yet, of how easy it is actually to build a Fiori application. I have like a demo that actually shows of like in a minute of how easy it is actually to build an application in Fiori. So you actually go in, this is Web IDE, you provide, so to say, like you connect it, so to say, to your backend system. And as you can see, like this is actually, I don't have to write a single line of code here. I have to connect the system. Obviously I need to know the business process, but as you can see, I don't need to be a developer up until now. And so I'm selecting an OData service here. And that's actually one of the requirements at the moment for Fiori elements, is you need to have an OData service. If you don't have one, you can actually build one relatively easily. And now I go into, and there it is. There it is. You saw like how easy and quick that was. And that is an SAP Fiori application. And you saw like that didn't even take 1 minute. And that was a very simple one, obviously. A custom example who actually used Fiori elements. We have a customer in the aerospace industry, and they actually used Fiori elements for something more sophisticated than what I just showed you in the 1 minute demo. But they used exactly the same tool set, same concept, and they actually built a Fiori application using elements, and it took them only half an hour, and they went productive in a week. And I think that's actually a great way to see, or like, it's great to see like how easy it is actually to build an SAP application that is following the Fiori guidelines, that is upward compatible, that is future ready. and you don't have much time to invest to build it. Any questions? Any questions around that?
Yeah, thank you.
Again,
I think the one thing for everyone, especially as this relates to Mendix and low code and no code tools, first and foremost, I mean, we obviously respect Mendix and all the low code, no code tool developers out there. I think for customers who are interested in understanding more of those, they really do owe themselves another look at Fiori Elements. I think a lot of it has, as a tool, has come a long way, and Peter can speak to more detail on that. You know, and I'll relate that a little bit to the follow-on question around SAP Build, right? So what the organization had to do was begin to pivot resources to really trying to help development accelerate the creation and delivery of applications, and actually the resources that we have behind Build are also now working on Fiori Elements. So we've pivoted that resource pool so that we are starting to build out that tool set. And I would ask everybody, you know, to take another look at Fiori Elements, because some feedback that we just received, you know, even a day or two ago, is that they wish, you know, Fiori Elements was there when they had started their project, because it's making things a lot quicker for them now. So take that as a first look then, and we could certainly follow up with another conversation on low code, no code, you know, thereafter. As it relates to Build, there was a question about Build. You know, so you might see my name on a popular blog. You know, we did make a hard decision to try and reduce the maintenance tail of SAP Build. The tool will be active and supported and maintained in the latest version of UI5 controls, etc., for a number of years. The free version or the trial version of Build is available to you. You know, for enterprise customers, they can continue to use Build. We are not, you know, we're not turning off the lights in any way. We are trying to keep it going, and we will be building out those capabilities in a new format around the new set of tools in the future. So, you know, it's a tool that you can continue to use as you need it. And by all means, contact myself or Jean-Luc, who I think has just dropped, or who will be able to drop, you know, for any further information on the tool.
Great. Any feedback, any questions regarding Elements? Maybe your experience in any projects that you have? Any recommendations towards us of how to improve it?
Hello, can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. One challenge we sometimes face is that, you know, when we go to create a new project from template, we select it, we look at it, we like it. And quite often the backend services are not the exact match, so we need to with the UI. But you know, the tough part is to figure out the data format that Fiori element exactly needs. So if there are some documents around it, you know, we can quickly, you know, create a new service that provides the data in the format that the Fiori element needs.
Yeah. So we are happy to provide you with more information if you want to post your, so to say, like your contacts, or like just reach out to us. You will see our names later at the end on the last slide. We're happy to follow up with you on this one. We also plan to have a chat session like today dedicated to Fiori Elements. So if you are interested in more about Fiori Elements, we will have in the next few weeks like a dedicated session just on Fiori Elements, because we see that there is a lot of demand and a lot of questions in that case and for that product. And so we wanted to share more on that. But if you have anything in between, just feel free to reach out to us directly. We can share our details later, or we will share our details.
Right, thanks.
Okay. And I just heard that that Keith actually his line dropped, and now let's see if he can actually come.
I think I'm back. That's very
okay,
strange.
Great. Okay, good. Good. As I mentioned, like today's session is more like an overview session, so that you actually understand what we will cover across the next few weeks. And if you have any questions, obviously do that as well. Going into the next one, mobile. Obviously, mobile is a big topic at the moment for us as well. Not surprising. I mean, there's like Gartner studies saying by 2022, like 70% of the interactions on the enterprise side will actually be on mobile devices. If I take my wife as an example, she's at I feel she's at 99%. She does everything on her mobile and on her tablet, so to say. So I think the 70% might actually be even underestimated. The frameworks that we actually offer at the moment. So we have two platforms, two SDKs, one for the iOS and one for Android. And you might be familiar with it. It's for mobile native development. So if you have native applications that you want to build for iOS, we have an iOS SDK that runs on cloud platform. And we have the similar thing for Android, for the Android platform as well. So we have the full flexibility for you to do whatever you feel like. What we actually, many people don't know that actually yet. Since we announced our partnership with Apple, I think it was like 4 years ago almost, we have built up a very great relationship with customers, partners, and the Apple team to actually build mobile applications. And the way of how it works, it's we actually have customers who again approach us with a business problem. We bring our best designers, Apple brings their best enterprise designers. The customer typically often brings a partner as well. And then we sort of say work together as a team in the Apple Enterprise Design Lab here in Silicon Valley together. And it's a great 1 week program. And after that, typically we have low fidelity and high fidelity designs that we can actually implement for a mobile application. So for those of you who are not aware of it, definitely work with your account executive or your sales team, approach them, ask them how they can actually get to give you access to this program. And we had seen great examples coming out of that. So because we have similar things like this and many people don't know you, we say like, okay, how can we actually help you leverage all these SAP UX innovations? So and that's why we set up this format here, what we like to do is over the next few weeks and months, potentially, we want to keep up this chat, and it should be really an interactive session. I understand like it's not everybody's, so to say, like not everybody likes to be on camera, not everybody likes to be on microphone, especially if it's recorded, but we want to make sure that the recording actually helps other people who couldn't join today for time reasons or technical reasons. And we said like, look, we have to share customer stories. We have presentations, we have live demos, we have videos, we have innovation frameworks. We're happy to share that with you. Feel free to come and talk to us, reach out to us. And then what we also have is we have experts like UX researchers, we have designers, we have product managers, we have developers that all can help you, so to say, with your respective projects. And as I said, like 3 takeaways from today's chat is Fiori is more than just a, let's say, a design system. It's much more, like, as I mentioned, like we have a portfolio of applications already that are available. We have a set of tools that we will cover in the next chats that we will have here. We have technologies like UI5, we have the mobile SDKs and so on. And Fiori is the best way to actually consume and create UX innovation from an SAP perspective or for the enterprise overall. Because as I mentioned with Fiori Elements, for example, it's based on OData. So if you actually have an OData service and a different backend system, you could actually expose it into Fiori Element as well. So it doesn't need to be an SAP backend system at the end of the day. So there's more flexibility to that framework, by the way. And that flexibility is, so to say, like what we would like to offer to you, to say like, look, you can implement Fiori applications for your enterprise, potentially even if it's not an SAP backend. So maybe question to you guys on the call is there, what is the topic that you would like to chat about next time? Like what is the #1 thing that is on your, so to say, agenda? What is keeping you up and busy at the moment where you say like, hey, I would like to talk about that. And then we make sure that we bring the experts to answer all those questions.
Hey, hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hi, this is Thiago from COE LAC, Latin America, Brazil. So I actually posted two topics on the chat where I really face challenges and customers really are interested in our workshops. One is the screen personas. So actually, we talk about this in some user experience sessions, and a lot of enterprise portal customers that have a lot of SAP GUI for HTML transactions, they really want to improve and enhance the experience. And we see that the quick win to have these transactions converted to HTML5, for example, is in using the screen personas and integrate that to the Launchpad. So is this a certain approach? Can we still recommend that as a Fiori better approach for the users that want to convert their transactions? And also a lot of customers also asks about how this is related to the deployment options that we have for S4HANA. And definitely when we recommend embedded options, for example, when they have different S4HANAs, they will always come with the question, okay, how I centralize my Launchpad? And we see in the roadmap or even in the document of the deployment options that the future approach of the portal service in the SAP is to have a central Launchpad service. So do we have any dates or any estimation with the quarters and how this is going to be launched?
I don't have an answer to that one. Paul, do you have an answer to that?
Hi, it's actually Tom Rice here. I've just been able to join just recently. I can maybe give some insights, at least to the central Fiori Launchpad. So Tiago, in fact, I just 2 weeks ago gave a webinar for ASAG on the Fiori roadmap. So in fact, if you look at the roadmap presentation, which I think is linked in the chat, you'll see some slides there also talking about timelines. The very first versions of the central Fiori Launchpad in the cloud are planned to come this year, in fact. So we expect probably towards the end of the year, maybe sort of October, November timeframe with the 2020 release of S4HANA, that customers could start using this central Launchpad to integrate more than one system. Could also be business suite system as well as S4HANA systems. And then, of course, step by step, can provide more and more flexibility that way.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. I will check the roadmap to see if I miss any updates on that.
So any other questions?
And maybe also a question regarding the central Fiori Launchpad, because recently I was doing a demo for a customer in the central Fiori Launchpad, and my colleagues and I, we found at least 3 bugs during this demo. So we are currently creating the tickets. The question is, what's the priorities here? Do we have kind of commitment that this kind of issues would be addressed quicker to deliver this good product to customers, or?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, it's planned to become available GA towards the end of the year. So I would be very surprised if you didn't find any bugs now. I mean, we're talking March, so it's absolutely normal, of course. And of course, the team is, as far as I know, working on with high priority to make sure that, of course, it's has high quality when it gets out. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't want to diminish anybody, you know, all the questions here around performance that are in the chat. I mean, there's certainly, as people have written is certainly a lot about how you design the application, but equally there's things within the platform that we're working on very quickly. There was a caching problem with the Launchpad where every tile would, you know, try to reload as soon as you came back to it. There's a lot of work going on there. I think this is important that we get a chance to capture this information, right? And so this is really a learning channel as much for us as it is for a sharing channel from us to you. So, I think we can get more, more information for you on specifically, but that will have to be kind of a private follow-up. So we understand that getting response and understanding where they are, where people are in the support queue is a big concern. So we'll have a discussion and see how else we can help you there going forward there. But we will continue to work to make sure that the information we share out is quality and accurate. Right? This is what you need, and to also understand where your priority is of the issues that you report.
Okay, so looking at the chat at the moment, there's quite some interest for mobile, the application studio, Fiori elements.
Guys, just another question regarding this very interesting and great Adidas use case. Is there any place or you can share the details behind it, like what was used, the technical architecture landscape, like SCP, how you managed to have the DevOps in place, like it was mentioned in the video, these things, it would be very interesting to know.
So Tiago, why don't you reach out to us via email, and we can connect you with the people who were involved in the project.
Perfect, I will. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I have a list for you to pick from if you feel like it. That's potentially topics that we would see unless you, but from the chat I already saw like there was quite some interest in the mobile applications and on the tool side, so Fiori elements and Fiori tools as well. That's at least what I saw so far. Feel free to use the chat or raise the hand and voice it here. Just don't forget to unmute your microphone, and then we would actually pick depending on your votes for next time. Okay, great. Any other questions? Any other feedback? Does this format work for you? If yes, vote you. I always say like vote with your feet. Join us next time, and we're actually working on improving the number of attendants. Today it was maximized by 100. Potentially we might have next time more seats. So we're working on that at the moment. Then if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to us. These are our names. And as I mentioned, we are from the product management team in the SAP UX organization. Keith, you might be muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Eugen, thank you so much for presenting this today and honestly brainstorming the entire idea to get this started. It is a little rough getting started and finding our place and learning understanding our audience. What we will do with all the questions in the chat is aggregate them, summarize them, and put them in a document that will also be available on the wiki. So for the things that we don't get to, we will we'll try to cover there. And if you are interested in building a connection and a relationship with us, individually, we're happy to guide you as we can. Just reach out to us, as appropriate. So we really appreciate you, bearing with our bumps and hiccups as we go along. But really enjoyed this chat. Again, thank you, Jean-Luc, always, right? So appreciate it.
Thanks to you, Keith, as well, and thanks to Paul, Tom, who helped us answer questions. And Roy, Peter, I saw in the chat as well. So, thanks to the team who were actually active in the background and in the foreground. Okay, cool. Then thank you very much, everybody. See you next time, and have a great day.
Thank you guys for putting this together. It was great.
Bye. Sounds great. Bye-bye.
Safe. Bye-bye.